Hello, and welcome to our Flipped Mastery Geometry classroom. I'm Mr. Vandermaiden. Later on in the year, you will be hearing from Mrs. Stevens and Mr. Eastman. Let me start by apologizing for the length of these first couple of lessons. There's just a lot of vocabulary in them, and there's no way around it. Many of you will be fine with just looking at the slides, writing down the vocabulary, and moving on. But for those of you who don't understand immediately, we have examples and explanations of the vocabulary, so you can listen to the explanations as you go along. Please remember that as you're writing, if you need to press pause to catch up, that's no problem whatsoever. You can also use the rewind and fast forward. It's all there for your convenience, and these notes will take you as long as it takes you to understand them. So with that, let's get to work on points, lines, and planes. This lesson begins with 3 undefined terms. We can't actually define them because they don't technically exist. They're not three-dimensional, and only three-dimensional objects exist in our world. So our first concept is point. It simply indicates a location and has no dimensions whatsoever. It's represented with a dot, usually with a capital letter next to it, because that's how we name it. So when you see this symbol, you can call it point A. Let's build on that and move on to a line. A line is represented by a straight path that extends in 2 opposite directions forever. It contains an infinite number of points. We represent it by drawing this straight path and putting arrow points at both ends. And although a line contains an infinite number of points, we generally only put in a finite number, 2 or 3 or 4. There are 2 ways that we use to name a line. One way to do this is by using 2 points on the line, using the line symbol over the top of those 2 points. For example, we can call this line, line AB. Notice the line symbol on top of AB. It is a line with arrowheads at either point. We could also call this line, line BC or line CA. Sometimes there is an italicized lowercase letter near one of the arrowheads. Can you see the italicized L there at the upper arrowhead? That means that we can also call this line L. Okay, now let's get into a definition, something that can actually be defined. Collinear means to lie on the same line. So points A, B, and C are all collinear. They're all on line L. Something that you probably know about mathematics is that things always come in opposites. So what happens if points aren't on the same line? Say this point D that's sitting out over there, that is not on line L. So we can now say that points A, B, and D are non-collinear. Let's go back to our undefined terms. Our final undefined term is a plane. A plane is represented by a flat surface that extends in 2 dimensions without end. A plane contains an infinite number of lines. Lines contain an infinite number of points. Planes contain an infinite number of lines. We represent a plane using a parallelogram, and we name a plane using one of 2 methods. One method is with an uppercase italicized letter. Notice the P in the upper left-hand corner there, so we can call this plane P. Or we can use any 3 non-collinear points. So we can name this plane ABD, or plane ACD, or plane BDC. Notice the order of the points doesn't matter. One thing we cannot name it, however, is plane ABC, because those 3 points are collinear. So another definition really quick. Coplanar means to lie on the same plane. So as you can see, points A, B, C, and D are coplanar. But what happens if we had this line M here with point E on it? Notice M is not in plane P, it goes down through it. So point E is not in plane P. That means that points A, B, D, and E are non-coplanar. They are not in the same plane. Okay, let's give this a try. What are 2 other ways to name line ZS? Well, something that is going to be very helpful is if you simplify the figure. So let's get rid of everything that isn't line ZS. Now that we're only looking at the line, we can see that we can easily name it line SK or line KZ. Also, because the Y is down at the bottom arrowhead there, we can also name it line Y. Here's another question. What are two other ways to name plane M? Notice the M in the lower left-hand corner. Well, let's get rid of everything in this figure that isn't in plane M, so let's say goodbye to line SZ. And now we can name plane M with three non-collinear points. So plane GRK and plane KLR are two possibilities. There are others as well. Okay, two more. What are the names of three collinear points? Well, you'll notice line Q there, and points L, K, and G are on line Q. Also, line Y, and points Z, K, and S are on line Y. What are the names of four coplanar points? Well, the easy ones to name are points G, K, L, and R because they're all in plane M. However, also notice that points Z, K, L, and S are coplanar. There is a plane that contains those 4 points. Just because something is not visible within a figure doesn't mean it's not there. Now you'll be given an opportunity to try some problems on your own. When you get done taking notes, press the button below.